Glenn.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, we can hear you.
Great.
Set to go. Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Charter Review Board meeting on Monday, August the 2nd, 2021 at 2 p.m. Just a reminder, please silence your cell phones. Town clerk, if you'd please call the roll.
Member Greenwald,
Present.
member Ty, member Riami,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Rosen,
Present.
Chairperson Donaldson,
Here.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
Town Attorney Tercivia.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first up, we have the consideration of the agendas. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Moving on to public comments. Public comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Do we have any public comments today? Town clerk, have we received any public comments in
We-
writing?
We have not received any today.
Okay. With no public comments, we will then move on to approval of the meeting minutes, and we have a couple here to consider. The first up is July 12th, 2021 Charter Review Board meeting minutes. Do we have any corrections to the minutes of July 12th, 2021? I'm sorry?
That was that.
Okay, none? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 12, 2021?
So moved.
Second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Moving on to the minutes of July 19th, 2021, Charter Review Board meeting minutes. Do we have any corrections to the minutes of July the 19th, 2021? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 19,
So moved.
2021? And second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, we'll move on to our unfinished business. This will involve the continued discussion of the charter sections recommended for review. As I recall, we only had one section, if I'm not mistaken, that we had sent back for further clarification. I'd like to go ahead and take that up at this time, if that's okay. This is section 2.019, dealing with fire and rescue protection. And by way of background, our last discussion, we were looking for a little language to further clarify the idea of outsourcing and permitting certain things and being a little more clear on that. So at this point, if you look on page 3 of the county attorney's letter to us, or his summary of the changes that we have under consideration. Item 9, fire and rescue protection. The proposed language now says the town may not outsource, abolish, merge with, sell, or otherwise transfer managerial control and decision-making to any other entity the essential services of fire rescue, police, or water, unless approved by a referendum vote of the electorate in accordance with section 166.031 Florida statutes as amended from time to time. Vice Chair Rosen?
This is a question for our attorney. I'm still having a little bit of concern about the use of the word outsource, which is kind of where we were at the time of our last discussion. So my hypothetical is, I understand that we do not want to send off control of these functions in their entirety without managerial oversight. However, hypothetically, let's just say there's a special service or a special education service used by, for instance, police or fire that we want to delegate to a third party, but retain managerial control. And just to keep life interesting in the hypothetical, let's just assume that this is a key function, for instance, reauthorizing EMTs in the fire department, if that's valid, but just by way of example. We're not giving up managerial control, I believe, but at the same time, we certainly are outsourcing a function for the fire and rescue department because the training needs to be certified by somebody that does the training and has the expertise to sign off. I'm asking counsel whether they believe that this language would still permit something akin to that hypothetical.
I share your concerns. And I think the last meeting, we talked about that, and I really struggled with whether to leave it in or not. So I'd leave it in so we could have this conversation. You know, we've been working, for example, your example is a good example. We've been working on a contract with the medical director. And the medical director will have the ultimate authority to prescribe medical issues for those firefighters, paramedics, EMTs. He or she is the one that's going to say, here's the protocol we follow when you have a heart attack, when you have bleeding, whatever you have. Arguably, that would be outsourcing. That's not managerial control, but is it decision-making? Making a decision about that particular patient's health and safety or the protocol. So of all those words, the one that I struggle with is outsource. You know, abolish, merge, sell, transfer managerial control, decision-making. To me, that's pretty tight. That's pretty clear. The outsourcing, I share your concerns on that. And it's hard for me to sit here and say outsourcing couldn't be interpreted the way that you just talked about and I just talked about in terms of medical director. So, you know, I would have, and it's not my role, but I would have no concern with taking the word outsourcing out.
Yeah, I mean, if I might, and just to follow up, I mean, I think that the intent of this group is been made pretty clear. And at this point, we're relying on, you know, legal expertise to get the wording correct. And I was hoping that you would submit something today that you were comfortable with, because we need our own attorney at least to be comfortable with whatever the language is.
I am very comfortable with all of it except for the word outsourcing. And I didn't feel comfortable taking that out because I wasn't clear that you all wanted it out, but taking the word outsourcing out, and then I'm very comfortable with the rest of it.
I mean, I think it's clear that as our vice chair said, I mean, clearly we're going to contract with a medical director who's going to be responsible in conjunction with the chief and other authorities to make certain medical decisions. Now, we still clearly can maintain control because whether it's the town manager or the fire chief or somebody can always find us a new medical director. So I don't, but again, I'm not a lawyer and I don't want to mess around with the legal language. We need help with that, but we're relying on you to provide something that you're comfortable with that would meet the stated needs of the group, which I think have been, I mean, this is one of those items that we've all really agreed on, I think.
It only sounds, I mean, if it's one word, outsourcing, I mean, I never agreed with that. I mean, I voted for it, but I mean, it was like, who cares really? I mean, as long as we have control and our council's comfortable with it, and we can make the changes necessary, why don't we just cut out the word outsourcing?
Yeah, I think we just really need to be at the point where our legal counsel is comfortable with it, with whatever language we have, because you're going to get asked at the commission level, you're going to get asked a bunch of times, is this language the appropriate language to protect the town? So at a minimum, I think we need for you to be comfortable with whatever language we have.
And thank you, Doc. I appreciate that. And I am. Take the word outsourcing out, and I absolutely am very comfortable.
I'll support our town attorney. I think it would be wise to remove the word outsource. I just think it creates a nest of problems.
I'm in the same vein. I'm going to rely on the town attorney's language here that this gets us where we want to go. I think this is perhaps one of the more tricky pieces here, but obviously our intent is for the citizens to have the final say in any significant change in essential services. What we're trying to do is keep it loose enough that we're not getting in the way of the commission in terms of carrying out those day-to-day essential services in an effective manner. To the degree that this language accomplishes that intent, I'm okay with it. Certainly, if the commission has more questions about this when we turn it over to them, I would certainly encourage them to pursue it. But I think we're about as close as we can get here in accomplishing what we're after.
I move we approve this clause with the removal of the word outsource.
Second,
Do we have a second on that?
second,
We have a second on the motion. Town clerk, if you would call the roll, please.
Member Greenwald,
Yes.
member Riami,
yes,
member Ty, vice chairperson Rosen,
Yes.
and chairperson Donaldson.
No.
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the bigger picture, does anyone else have any of the other provisions? I mean, we've approved all these others by motion. This was actually the last one that we hadn't touched that we brought back. So if there is anything else, now would be the time to bring it up.
Just a procedural question. How would you like us to submit minority opinions or comments for inclusion? And would you like those shared with the group first and discussed, or just made as addendums, or how would you like to proceed?
Well, for that purpose, let's go ahead and move on then to part B of the unfinished business, then dealing with the charter review and so forth. And in answer, I'll give you my impression of what I thought we were trying to accomplish by including those. And that is that the work of the minority reports in particular are a freelance report as far as I am perceiving it. It's not necessarily up for debate by this group or discussion unless you wish to raise a question about it or ask for a technical interpretation or ask for some research from staff in formulating your letter. But the form I had in mind was that it would be a letter from an individual member of this group that would state a differing opinion or an alternate approach that you would like the commission to consider. And that it would, in its full context, be duplicated within the report and not amended or changed by this group. And to some extent, that holds true for the other considerations too. I know Board Member Ty has already submitted some items that under a draft form, which I would assume staff will review for technical accuracy and get back to him on the final form. But I would submit any of those directly to the town manager. Really from this point forward, even though I've done some drafts of the report, in effect today, I'm turning it over to the town manager. So the final composition, context, and issuance of that report would come from their office, not necessarily from this group. So certainly today's the day to make any comments on the draft or anything that's not in there that you would like to include. And then we'll sort of pass the torch. Vice Chair.
I just have a question of style that maybe our attorney can help us with. The letter of transmittal and the cover report are, I think, very well written. So I congratulate the chair on that. But as a matter of style, should the letter of transmittal be from all of the members to all the members? And I know that our chair has been the author of a very considerable document, and I'm happy to give him all of the credit, but should also the whole summary be from the entire committee and then signed by the entire committee? This is just a question of style, and I just wonder how that's been accomplished elsewhere.
I have no qualms with that approach.
Actually, I would like to delegate, to the chair person to sign it off. Yeah, because, if all of us sign, that's okay. But, formally, the chair can submit the transmittal letter, not the whole committee, whole board.
The other option is just withdraw that letter and allow the town manager to submit a cover letter.
I'm neutral about that. It just seems to me that the transmittal is on behalf of the entire committee, and therefore, and we've addressed it to the commission with all of their members' names. So it just seems to me the parity would be some. If the town manager chooses to do that, that's fine with me as well.
If that's the consensus of the group, let's amend it to include all the names. And if anyone has any comments on the cover letter, otherwise, we should voice those and get those taken care of. Okay, then we'll turn that over to the town manager then to take care of that part of it. And then they can call each of us in to sign at the appropriate time.
I have a question.
Mr.
I
Tai.
have a letter, and according to you, we submit everything to the town manager. Should my letter be addressed to the town manager? Because here I address to the mayor. I want to follow the formality. I address to the mayor. And now you talk about submitting those things to the town manager. Should I change it to the town manager, address to town manager, or address to the mayor?
I would think so, yes, rather than to the group, since it is your comment to
Town
the
manager?
report. Yes,
Okay.
I think I would redirect it to the town manager.
Yeah, I
If you
will.
wouldn't mind, that would be great.
I will change it.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the report? Okay, if not by consensus, we'll let the town manager move ahead with that and put a wrap on that part. Okay, that actually concludes the business part of the meeting. I would like to remind everyone under the announcements that August 5th, 2021, at 9 o'clock in the morning, we have coffee with the mayor. please go to the city or town website if you'd like to RSV and attend that event. Okay. And there being no further business.
Mr.
meeting-
Chairman, I just have
I'm
a
sorry,
couple of questions. If I wasn't sure when to put
I'm
this in,
sure,
but
go right ahead.
just to check on some facts before I go ahead and submit some of my minority reports.
Mhm.
I talked very briefly before the meeting about this, but just want to check with everybody. I still believe that there are actually facts out there, and I just want to make sure that I get them right. And this is based on the memorandum that we got from our financial officer regarding trim, which when I read some of the original stuff, I didn't come up with the same conclusions, and I just want to make sure he's undoubtedly right, but I just wanted to check. So when it came to taxing authority, we all know that in our charter right now, the town is restricted to raising the millage rate to 10 mils. We also know that we're currently at roughly 3.2 mils. According to the document that Matt submitted, as I read it, by a supermajority or 2/3 vote for fiscal year 2022, the rate could be increased to 4.47 mils, which actually represents roughly a 38% increase in taxes that could be voted on by a 3-to-1 if somebody was absent, or a 4-to-1 commission vote. And also, according to this, by existing rules, and I'm not saying this would ever happen. I mean, I think it would be extraordinarily unlikely. But from a charter standpoint, it would be possible for the commission by a unanimous vote to raise the millage rate to 10 mils, which would be an over 300% increase. Again, I am not in the least saying that this is something that would be likely to happen, but at least there's, and I did not anticipate that this would be the result from the trim document. But at least as I read it, that's what I understand from what Matt told us. And one of my minority suggestions for consideration, not for adoption, and I mentioned this to the group earlier, is to be looking at potential limitations for some of that. In other words, most of our talk about spending, we spent more time on spending limits than anything else by a landslide, but had to do with just, you know, it wasn't really out of the box type stuff. It was like, gee, the $350,000 cap is much too restrictive. How do we have some restrictions, but not too many restrictions? And then the group, after, again, much discussion, came up with the 10% of the enterprise and operating budget funds. And some of this, you know, and in the process, we learned a lot. I mean, we learned that, you know, there are already balanced budget requirements. So that you know, there's already a requirement for referendums if the town wants to borrow money or seek bond issues that would be guaranteed by ad valorem taxes. So we learned a lot about safeguards that are already in the system. We also learned that other neighboring communities certainly don't have line item type restrictions. I have a feeling, and it's not based on fact, but a feeling that there are still a significant number of people in town that would like to see some additional restrictions on the commission beyond the current statutory ones. And I just wanted to, in my minority opinion, make sure I had the facts straight in terms of what the commission was currently allowed to do under existing rules. Again, not that they would do this, but could do this in terms of taxes, and also in terms of that I'd raised previously, utilizing unspecified reserved funds that the town has accumulated over the years to quote unquote balance the budget without going to referendums or back to the taxpayers. So again, it's not to get into this discussion again. I mean, I've brought these points up before. I think we've kind of really gone over this. I just wanted to check and make sure that everybody is understanding is along the lines that I just outlined before I submit it as a minority report.
Mr. Ty?
Yeah, actually, I have the same, perception about the tax increase. I would like to share what I wrote to you, and we may put together in one piece minority letter from you and from me. If needed, we have a similar perception about this one.
Again, I would be happy to. I mean, the sunshine rules and things, I think, prohibit groups of 2 or 3 people getting together. And I think it's one of those areas where I'm not sure it works to our benefit, but the rules are the rules, so that I don't think we're allowed to get together offline and come together with, as 2 members of the same group come together with documents for review by the whole. I think it's just a sunshine law restriction.
You're correct.
Right, the conversations will have to continue to be independent, even at the risk of duplication of some information, correct? Ron, did you have any input on this one?
Well, I think we've beaten this to death enough. I think, the voters can decide. I appreciate minority opinions. The voters, if they're that concerned about what the commission can do or not do with respect to this, then they can change it. I mean, I think what we're putting forth will adequately, in most instances, if our language is approved, take care of what in most instances a commission would need to fund something. And it hasn't been, obviously the provision has been around a long time. To my knowledge, it's never been a concern. So I don't know why it would be now.
Vice Chair Rosen?
I agree with Ron. I think that this has been around a long time. There are controls within Florida law. And I think we have beaten this one to death. So if there is going to be a minority report, that's fine with me. I think whether or not that understanding is correct is not something that any of us are going to opine on. I think it's just going to be presented to the commission as a minority report.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm comfortable with where we are at the moment. I would suggest it continue to be a minority report and that we not take it up, having discussed it previously. I'm comfortable with the way it works currently regarding the cap. And I'm comfortable with the fact that if there is a significant number of people in the town who feel otherwise, they certainly do have the right to petition for a referendum to change. So with that being said, I'd rather it continue to be part of the minority report. Were there any other items on that topic before we move on? None? Okay, thank you. Before we adjourn again, I want to thank everyone on the committee. This has been a lot of work, and you have given us an incredible amount of attention and detail. Appreciate your cooperation. I appreciate the spirit in which we've gotten this done. I look forward to seeing the final report, and I do thank you. That being said, no further business. Our meeting is adjourned at 3:30.
2:31.
Getting used to these long meetings. Thank you.
I love it.
Mr. Torcivia, please don't run away today. I need to see you.